right, well, I'll drink to that.
That's what was the clap, sir. I need to sync these things.
Listen, I'm not in the biz, as they say.
We need to sync this in. So are you guys ready?
Media elite, yeah.
Sure.
Are you ready? Are you pretty now?
Very
Look,
pretty.
they're playing Sum 41.
pretty.
I'm ready.
You guys ready?
Yes.
And welcome to another episode of The Shub Show. If you know, you know.
I don't
Welcome.
know.
He doesn't even know. That's the greatest part of that. We'll explain that to you later.
It's inside of inside.
Oh, it's an inside joke. And we have 2 new guests.
Yeah, we do.
I mean, Adam used to be on our show at one point.
Original guest.
Adam was the
Original guest.
Just saying.
We have a
pioneer.
fancy new guest.
We do. We've got Ben May here. Ben is the founder and managing director of the Code Company. It's a digital publishing and media He is a digital media and technology expert, an entrepreneur who has over a decade of business experience. The Code Company, which I will ask him in a minute how long he's been there for, is a globally recognized enterprise WordPress agency and WordPress VIP Gold partner, specializing in solving complex problems at scale for some of Australia's most prominent digital publishers, including Drive, Pedestrian, and Val Morgan, as well as international brands such as eBay and Fujifilm. Ben May, welcome to the show. Hey.
Welcome to this fun bar full of
Shubs.
nerds.
Yeah, thank you.
Shubs, T-Jabs, we got all kinds of names for it.
Should we explain the Shubs first to them?
Yeah, go for
You
it.
could explain it to one of your co-hosts. That would be awesome.
So we were at the second Biz Dev Camp.
Second Biz Dev Camp. Correct.
And it was in Washington, D.C.
That's right.
And at some point, we were making fun of the way international crowd, for the most part, in Washington, D.C.
It was at a Hyatt. So
It was at a Hyatt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
you
And we were making fun of how they went around of doing the bidets, right? But it was just like hose attached to the toilet, and the power of this hose could have taken like rust off a car. We were like, what is happening? Right. And then Ben comes in and goes, what the hell is those Shubs in these bathrooms? And we're like, excuse me?
I was happy that I didn't have a shub. That was the highlight.
Yes, that was a highlight.
I had a normal shower.
Yeah.
So a Shub is a shower in a tub.
In a tub.
Gotcha. Right.
And
That
then
makes
we
sense.
just had a lot of fun with it.
It's-
Somebody might have registered shubs.com at some point. Drunk in a bus. I
Might have
think.
happened.
Might have happened.
If there was a word to summarize that Biz Dev Camp, it was Shub.
It did.
Nice.
It did linger on longer than any memory or lesson.
Definitely longer
that I
than
learned.
Ben wanted it to.
Yeah, much longer.
And it still lingers.
It still comes
It's the
back.
only-
comes back.
It's the only thing that came out of
Yeah,
it.
that's
Some
it.
death
Circles.
camps.
It's some
Some
circles. You
6
you
years
got it.
later.
That's right. That's
Nice.
right. Yeah.
Nice, very good. Well, welcome to the show, whatever you want to call it today. Before we get going, a little background on your experience with the Code Company. How long have you been there? When did you start it all up?
Yeah, we started, I think 6-7 years ago now. We've been sort of in this version of the business where we're focusing on media, publishing, WordPress. Most of that's been in sort of Asia Pacific and doing a bit more now in the US as well, which is why, one of the reasons we're over here as well.
Sure. So over the last 6 or 7 years, obviously we've experienced an economic downturn. We've gone through a global pandemic. We've come out of that pandemic. There's hybrid work. There's clients who are risk averse to digital marketing spends, and oh wait, but I have to build stuff. Oh wait, but I don't know if I really want to spend all that money.
Right.
Oh wait. I don't
Are you
really know
reading,
what
are
I'm
you just
talking
reading
about.
those Slack messages?
No,
in
this is
your
just
Slack?
let's just say it's
grievances.
inundated, right? So we see this. Like last 6-7 years, biggest like challenges and successes based on some decision making you've had.
Right.
over that period of time.
I mean, we were pretty lucky. We were always like a remote business and sort of hybrid distributed. Like we had a few like pods of people. So we were working for big companies in like Melbourne and Sydney and things like that, living in like regional Australia. So we were sort of already half there. And then as COVID came around, we were already doing that anyway. So it was sort of another day. We didn't have to like learn how to be a remote business by that point. So that was really handy. For us, economically, it's probably a bit different in Australia. We had a lot of brands that were using that time to double down and get stuff done so that when the pandemic was over, whenever that was going to be, they weren't like going to start then and be like 2 years behind or a few years behind. It's like a weird survivor's guilt thing because we obviously had a very island fortress approach in Australia and had a pretty normal life. But it also allowed us to, sort of just spend money and people continue to go out and do things, and other than like a few spots there where lockdowns and stuff. So yeah, we had a really good couple of years. The business worked as it normally did. People were spending money still. The knock-on, which obviously everyone had, was like outrageous hiring and salaries for engineers and digital and product, which I think we're starting to see now, like that course correct of like layoffs and things like that to like realize the over-indexed salaries are hurting bottom lines. But yeah, so that was all those years. I think for us it was like really specializing and picking our niche. 3, 4, 5 years ago, sort of really work out, we're sort of a jack of all trades in the WordPress space. How do we be just like really good? And we looked back at what we were doing and realized, yeah, it's this media space, this enterprisey kind of engineering, and just double down in that space. And sort of we're working with Newfangled back then to sort of help just like focus our efforts. And that's sort of been really instrumental in getting us on the right track and like following that along the way. So I'm not going to say Mark was the single greatest thing because that was out of BizDev. That was the second thing that came out of BizDev Camp. After the Shub was meeting
right,
Mark.
he was there.
I met Mark there, and then we worked together for about a year or two after that. And that sort of definitely put us on the right trajectory, just of like sort of what we already knew, but just never really had someone to like tell you off for like doing too many things and focus. So that worked really well.
Are you basically the same? Have you grown over this last 6 years from headcount revenue standpoints?
Yeah, I mean, we now are in like the mid-20s headcount wise, and that's pretty permanent base. Like, you know, we will use contractors and overflow when we need it. You know, there's been plenty of pain points in learning about how to use freelancers and contractors and internal team, and plenty of projects that have a lot of written off hours, but you know, we've sort of got a pretty good formula to doing that now, and sort of some rules that we're trying not to break to avoid tears later on.
Sure. Nice.
Cool. I had a question.
It's in there somewhere.
It's in there somewhere. Adam, you have questions? Because I just lost one there.
I was curious about, you know, so working with Newfangled, right? Like having someone that's actually from the outside coming in saying, you guys are doing way too much. Focus on this thing. So how much of that have you been able, you know, because if you're not working with him now, have you guys remained disciplined on that? Have you veered from the path? How is that working and are you seeing the return on putting that marketing out there, that positioning, and it coming back as leads?
We're pretty disciplined still. I probably wouldn't be as disciplined if we continued working with him. But we've definitely stayed true to like the niche and sort of going through that process with those guys. There's like probably three, like there's Newfangled stuff, there's sort of like some of David Z. Baker's thinking about stuff, and like Blair's stuff with without pitching as well. And it's like this kind of like quasi like bit of everything that's like become this good model for us. But yeah, we've been pretty disciplined about that, how we think about like content marketing, about even just like advertising when we talk to prospects and stuff. And that's worked in our favor really well of like, this is the problem, we don't solve any other problems. So if it's a fit, it's a really good fit. And if we're up against a generalist shop that does like e-commerce and marketing and like event website, like whatever, it's a no-brainer at that point of like, we've already got a whole bunch of like institutional knowledge internally, IP we can like reuse, and like set the bar of what the baseline is much higher than like having to build all of that, or like a lot of shops have to learn on the job for the first time of like, oh, we've never had to build a syndication system for like distributing content. We'll figure it out though, and then it's like a constant pain for like 3 years, whereas we're like, we've done this 30 times, we can sort of use our framework we already have, roll it out in a couple of sprints.
It sounds like you guys did a lot of work to really hone in on like the core focus. Have you reached that point where you're saying no to things that don't fit that mode, or are you still kind of taking all comers?
We're pretty good. I mean, we have like a loose scoring framework, how we think about, you know, are you gonna earn something, learn something? Is it a like good case study? Could it get us a foot in the door somewhere else? Like there's about 5 of those sort of things. So it's got to hit at least 1 or 2 of those pretty strongly. But I think that, you know, there's a very small chance we'd ever like take an e-commerce project or something like, or build an app. Like we would just have no idea how to do that. So it's still got to be pretty disciplined in that space. You know, we're sort of also soften that a little bit of like, instead of just media and publishing like complex content or like migrating like 200,000 articles, like, you know, maybe it's not a publisher that's like that traditional sense, but still using that kind of rich
content.
Really complex information architecture and how stuff relates, authoring, multi-use, like all that sort of stuff. We've been pretty strict at staying to that. And also like even just the name of the business, which, you know, it sort of has forced us to not like, well, it prevents us from becoming anything other than like an engineering shop, which is a nice constraint that we've got sort of baked into the brand. Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you servicing clients all over the globe or just like very specific areas?
We've been trying to work out with Leslie, who does EOS stuff.
Yeah.
We're trying to work out not our tagline, but like our range, and it's kind of from like Singapore to New York is sort of our time zones we can do. Anything west of Singapore, like Europe, just doesn't work for us.
Yeah.
Like you can either do one side or the other.
Oh, interesting. It's the opposite. Yeah.
Yeah, like if we wanted to do the UK, we have to be like back late at night, like
Right.
like 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock at night. But if you're doing like 7 a.m. with the US, like New York, you can't do like 7 a.m. and 7 p.m.
Right.
Unless you burn people to the ground.
Right.
Spread too thin.
So
yeah.
we pretty much, for like anything that comes out of like that quadrant of the planet,
Yep.
we just say we can't do it. Here's like maybe someone who might be able to, like someone we know,
Yep.
Who may not screw you over, like good luck. But we just don't even try because it's just not even worth like trying to do a sales call. It's like, oh, we have to hang back to like 6 o'clock, like because we start early, we finish early mostly.
Yeah.
So it's like I don't want to stay back past 3, like to have to do a call at 6.
Yeah.
And we're not
Like
gonna.
out the door by 4, like I'm not hanging around.
Yeah, I got to take the dogs to the park. Like I got things to do, you know.
Is there a world where Code Company sets up an operation somewhere in the middle where you could bridge that gap and be full global? Is there any interest in that, or are you happy with?
I think there's more than enough everywhere
Business
else.
where
Like
you are.
I don't have. Yeah, there are people who want to like. We're in every continent in the globe. Like there's more than enough work for us. Like we're about 25 people. Like we don't need like
Yeah.
a office in every major city in the world. There's more than enough in the US and Australia and like APAC for us to be.
You don't have to dredge the ocean.
Yeah, exactly. And also, there's different sales cultures. So it's good to know, like, US a certain style, Asia very different style, even within
Absolutely.
Asia different style, Australia again. But then like Europe and then the UK are very different beasts as well. So we just don't bother. Just do some things and do them well.
Yeah,
And, like
you
half-assing.
don't have to like retrain and figure out which one am I selling to right
Which
now.
ironically, like between Australia and the UK is probably very similar culturally, but like trying to do a deal with French or Italian or German or whatever, like I have no idea. Like other than like spending like short amounts of time on vacations and things, like
I'd love to record those meetings though and watch you just go through that
yeah,
process.
yeah, that's right, yeah, brutal honesty and just like straight to the point, like
Straight to the
yeah,
point, right?
Yeah,
It's
yeah, that's
like,
right. Like here's what it is.
You got nothing.
Yeah.
You're like,
Yeah.
we can't even play with this.
If we can't close on like 1 or 2 calls and I'm not wasting my time, yeah. So it's very different. So yeah, we just stick to what we know we can do and we're from there. Yeah.
Nice.
Right. You talked a bit about really focusing on engineering and especially publishing. I wonder, being as niche as you are, if you've experienced a shift from the clients in terms of table stake expectations around development and engineering. I think there was a period of time where you could tell a client, yes, we'll architect and we'll build something for you, and then we'll make it kind of pretty and organized, but the data collection, collation, analysis, translation, all that stuff, certainly seeing it at Crowd Favorite, right, where clients are starting to expect more on the data front. Are you seeing the same thing? And how are you staffing for that? Are you bringing on different kinds of people to service client expectations that are changing if you're seeing that sort of in your vertical?
Yeah, I think people are getting more educated about a lot of things, but digging into that a little bit, there are people who are getting educated, but they still don't really, like they're reading like a few headlines and then asking for AI or data or first-party data, or and then you dig into what they're actually looking for, and it's like that's none of those things. You're just looking for like a login or something, like so you still got to press it back a little bit, but definitely people are becoming more informed and educated. First-party data stuff, it's the MarTech space, like it sort of like dovetails into what we do. We don't like want to do the implementation of it because it's just another whole ecosystem in itself.
Right.
So it's trying to like say we can do the plumbing to like that next step, but we don't want to like manage what that is, because that in itself is usually a big organizational change project of how do we store data, how do we like, again, we sometimes a bit too blunt of like trying to end up at the end of like what do you actually want out of this, like building dashboards or like we can collect data now, but if we don't know where we're ending, like we're just wasting time of like a whole bunch of noisy data that's not structured properly or not connected to the right things. So,
Yeah, and I'm seeing that too, where like they're turning to their vendors and saying, so I've got this marketing team, they're not data analysts.
Right.
So I need them to I need this data to be further along when it gets to them.
Yeah.
Because they're taking up way too much time in their weeks
Scrubbing it up,
trying to figure it out themselves, and they have no idea what it is.
Right.
So yeah, I think we're seeing something similar there for sure.
I think it's still pretty new, like in reality, like, yeah, it's still a new field, like how to deal with this first-party data. Like I feel like it's been a long time. We've been talking about the cookies, third-party cookie going away, and this is the year first-party data, and that feels like that's been for 5 years now. Of like, this is the year that everyone gets into first-party data, and then no one does anything. So yeah, I don't know where that line is of like when we finally fall off a cliff and everyone finally scrambles, but yeah.
So you're doing pretty much just straight engineering, not a lot of like strategy and consulting.
Not on top of that, because I think it's one of those ones of just like having to keep up with where people are, like the products that are coming out every day of the week. Like there's that, whatever that chart is of like the MarTech like footprint. Like, it used to be like 50. I remember it being like 50 or 100 products. It now looks like, just like a mosaic. You can't even see it anymore. Like, it's like, how do you decipher that noise? Like, I think, and that could be something that like we figure out. If there's like some clear front runners of like having someone who can specialize that is like a really obvious, but the one thing that's consistent is that everyone's different and they all have a different tool. So it's like we specialize in this one ESP, but there's 4,000 other ones, and the next 20 prospects are all going to want everything but what we've got. So it's a risk of like having subject matter experts out of something that's no value.
Right.
You just went to the WordPress event in DC, right?
Yep, WordCamp.
WordCamp, right. I saw Matt was there too, but what do you think the future of like WordPress is? Because it's a lot of changes in the past few short time, or there will be. I
mean, the WordCamp stuff is a lot of stuff. There's like stuff about how the product itself is evolving, like core and things like that. But also, there was some stuff like NASA guys were there. They sort of talked about how they like re-platformed the whole NASA suite over to WordPress and things like that, and really spoke to like WordPress's ability like for editing and authoring and like the whole block editor, which I think came out probably a bit early when they first released it, and a lot of shops.
That's coming,
and it's finally, I think, just getting its stride now of you can actually customize it enough to build some really decent authoring experiences, better than probably any CMS, proprietary or not, on the market. But there's still a lot of like work that you've got to build every time to get it to that stage.
Yes.
So for agencies to like figure out how you have that like sort of toolkit ready to go, so you're just doing like the last 20%, not having to like, we need 1,000 hours to do like the same thing over and over and over again. So that part of the market, I think, still figuring out where it's going to sit. Like, because again, WordPress is very noisy with like themes and plugins, and you just can't spend your life testing the newest Beaver builder or page builder or whatever. Like it's just it's just every day of the week. It's a weird one with like, because I mean, like the future of WordPress, the biggest existential threat people are probably thinking about at the moment is like AI, and how does like, if like AI is like two-faced. There's either like generating content, so like written content, images, all that sort of stuff, but also like consuming content of like, if everyone just moves to search, what is the purpose of a website in the future in total? Which is there's a lot of hype and worry about that. I don't know if there's a clear answer to that yet. I mean, play to the extreme. If there's no websites, where's the AI going to get its information from?
Yeah. So where's the learning data coming from?
Right. It will only have knowledge up till 2023. And anything that happens after this,
it's just its own.
It's going to be predicting it. Yeah, that's right.
Right.
It's just going to make up its own
stuff. It's
stuff.
going to read Twitter or something, and like that's going to be the source of truth going forward.
It's now X, my friend.
It's going to be reading X and Instagram, and that's where it's going to learn everything from, or TikTok.
Or TikTok.
Well, I think the question is, can the internet exist without websites? I think the answer is yes.
Yeah. Well.
And I think it will.
And I don't think anyone can actually imagine what that is yet.
So it's funny because I'm smiling because my last question, not theirs, but my last question for you is literally, as a digital agency focused on web development, how do you think clients and customers will consume and interact with content as we head toward the back half of the decade? Do you see people still using a browser and going to websites as they exist today in 2030? And is that hardware dependent?
Yeah. I don't
if we're all wearing our
VR
reduced versions of the Vision Pro or whatever,
I don't see that being a thing anytime soon.
Searching HTTPS? I don't think so.
No, I mean, people probably said that about email like 10 or 20 years ago as well. Like,
it's the most still here.
And it's the most, and if anything, it's had a renaissance lately.
Right.
I think if you are like a news provider that like goes off, like a lot of publishers have got very lightweight reporting, and they just like bank on like SEO for long tail rubbish of like best phone cases or whatever else. Those sorts of business, I think, are dead in the water and have got a very short life, because that sort of stuff will be so easily cannibalized by search, and like amalgamating big data sets.
Yeah.
I think if you are building a product that, and smart media people are starting to think about like community and like engagement and like, you know, whether that includes like logged in areas or some sort of like a platform more so than just generic content. I think there's definitely a place for those. I don't see like mid-sized like communities like moving to like bespoke iOS apps or anything like that. Like the web still is a very rapid place to do that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think there's a lot of crap that will get eaten away.
Do you think like a .com will ever even be necessary by the end of the decade for companies to do business?
Maybe.
I don't know. I could definitely see it going away.
I mean,
there are a lot
it's
of
sort
other
of
ways
like
to
doesn't
get your
have
stuff
the
out
yeah, it doesn't have the prestige that it used to. Like, because now there's like .everything. Like,
Yeah.
or a dot anything. Like,
But that's what I mean, like,
the thing that you've got to
it's-
type into a browser in order to get information
Right.
about something.
Yeah.
Is that going to be is that the interaction that we see?
But if you like wanted to
continuing on?
follow, follow a person that you know, because people talk to people, and that's still not going to change. If I just wanted to like know all of Bart's musings and his thoughts on things, I'm still going to want to follow him somehow. And there needs to be some sort of medium. And if I want to talk to people who also like Bart, like I'm going to chat somewhere. Like it's going to be on some.
There's
gonna be on-
connection. There's got to be connection somewhere, right?
Right.
Like, it's got to be something.
It's not all one way,
repository.
and that's the thing. A lot of people like spinning up these like chatbots at the moment, which
Yeah.
90% of them are just like search. They're not AI at all.
Yeah.
It's very insular, though.
yeah.
It's
But no,
like
it's
a
in-
walled community.
Yeah, but it's. I don't think that's going to replace reading. Like
Yeah.
I'm not just going to search every question. Like you find somewhere and like navigation sort of taps into like human curiosity or navigation of like. So there's still there, and I don't know how AI. Like reading the results of ChatGPT is not going to take that away.
That's right.
But it's still going to take away a lot. Like if Siri, becomes ChatGPT, and I can be like, oh, what's the best iPhone case for hiking or something, and it just gives me the one answer, and it links straight to Amazon, or like that's going to knock off like millions of websites that do just that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, it's going to go into the world of like, you don't see, here in US, you don't say tissue, you say Kleenex, right?
Yeah.
Or Xerox, but it's a copier. Like, it's
Yeah.
going to get into that world where
Yeah.
it's like, just book me a hotel. It's going to be whatever hotel is hooked up to,
Yeah.
all your stuff.
Yeah, yeah,
It's one of
exactly.
those like kind of things. AI will understand that.
Yeah.
All your points, everything else kind of playing with them.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything that's going to replace the browser as the entry point just yet. Like ChatGPT is the first thing where I've seen people go in and they get sucked into that walled garden.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have audio and video
Right,
and
so
pictures.
what's in my head
Eventually,
is
it'll
like
be a thing.
Blade Runner 2049.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Your fridge is
this
going to
idea
just
of personalization, how we use it today, forget that. Like use
Yeah.
the English like grammar version of personalization. So you make the sun, which is an inanimate object, you give it human characteristics. So that's personalization.
Yeah.
So you do the same thing with the internet essentially, where you do not type into anything. You don't type anything. You just speak whatever into something, and it manifests a person, a robot, I don't know, maybe
Let me
Elon's going to
remind
give
you
us all
of
something. I
a
don't know.
movie
but,
called
like,
Back to the Future 2.
ooh,
We were going to have floating skateboards.
Yes.
It is 2020. It is 2023.
2025.
We are
What
nowhere
was the
near
year that they went forward? Do you
I
remember?
think it was like 2 years ago. Who knows? It already happened. 2019, pre-pandemic.
Yeah.
No floating skateboard.
Well, that's why you just need the chip in the brain, Elon's brain chip or whatever, and that will just that'll just be the
Neuralink?
Yeah, the Neuralink, and then you won't need a browser because it will
Right.
just like
It's just- this
either
is where
kill
I'm-
you or like
Because you'll be dead.
you'll be dead.
Dead.
Or is it like Minority Report, where like you're just advertised to or marketed to?
Yeah.
It cut about complete personalization,
Yep.
Yeah.
individual to individual. I don't know.
Or Idiocracy, where it's just whatever.
Well, we're definitely headed
Which,
there.
by the way, watched it for the first time in my life.
You just watched it?
Because it gets name dropped all the time.
Yeah.
Now,
it is.
here's my
and I
question.
watched
Greg.
it a month
Did you find
ago.
it fascinating or depressing?
Neither. I thought it was the worst film I've ever seen.
No, it's terrible.
It's like,
Oh,
and I
really?
was like, everyone talks about this movie.
no, it's absolutely terrible.
The build-up
But
did not live up
the
to
problem
the hype.
is, it really just
I get
a lot
it,
of
though.
that.
I totally get it.
What's
We're-
happening
we're
now.
living through it.
We're living through
We're
it.
living through
Water the plants with Gatorade, man.
it. Gatorade's great.
Science.
Science, it just works, right? Is that all your questions?
That was all mine. Do you have?
No, I have the final question.
Knock yourself out.
So Ben, what are you currently obsessed with?
Work-wise, anything.
We actually prefer not work.
Yes.
All right, not
Yes.
not
We've had some interesting
You can do work,
answers
though.
best too. But go on. You can do whatever you want.
I don't know what I'm obsessed with.
Yes, you do. travel.
Yeah, it's probably something to do with travel because course correcting for a couple of years of not traveling and things like that.
If you want to know how to fly or travel really well, talk to Ben.
Right,
He's got all the tips and tricks.
Or sympathy for people who don't. There is none.
Right. No empathy, but sympathy.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, work-wise, out the thing this year has been EOS, which I've realized very late to the game on. Everyone, again, I think I heard like people like you guys talking to Mark about that, like BizDev Camp, however long ago that was. Like everyone was backing out. It sounded very culty back then, but I realized we had a lot of the same pain points. So that's been my work. Obsession, I guess. That's the thing I'm focusing on the most. Nothing else. I'm not obsessing with AI and stuff because I still think it's
Too early.
at the geek, not the geek.
He'll
the
tell you
peak.
it's not AI.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
What is it, Bart?
It's not. It's just on language models.
It's just a hype at the moment. Yeah, it's not. There's
It's
no
a wrong word for it.
So I'm watching, but I'm not
I
obsessing
wasn't
with
going to
it yet.
say it. You brought it up.
It's great for VC.
Yeah, that's right. If you can just add AI into whatever we're
spend
trying
their
to
money
pitch.
on
Adam.ai.
That's right. Yeah, exactly.
I'm here. Invest in me.
Are you? Are you here?
Are you actually
Yeah.
here?
Maybe.
It's a visual representation.
You have to find out.
Wait, do I have to do a spoken word notes? Adam waved his hand in front of his face.
Yes.
If you
That's
don't
gonna be
watch
a
on
note,
video.
sir. That's
Can
gonna
we
be a
ask
note.
him?
Yeah, we can actually ask them. What are you currently obsessed
Oh
with?
my goodness.
Well, you're sitting here, so you gotta contribute.
Well, I mean, I have a new phenomenon. My oldest started college last week.
Wow.
So I'm
Congratulations.
obsessed with the idea of my own mortality.
I thought you were going to say
How
student loans.
I am old. No, I mean, that's been great. The usual. Like I'm listening to, far left socialist podcasts, watching shows about aliens, and helping people train for marathons. So
Getting ready for hockey preseason.
I am very ready for hockey preseason. I'm very disgruntled about all of the NFL football coverage because
Football's coming, man.
I loathe the culture and everything about that sport.
Ben doesn't care about any of it.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's
We
not
are
rugby
unified
7,
in
so it
that.
doesn't make a
There's
difference.
seen unity. I
I
do
love
love
football.
Australian rules football though. That's
Oh,
wild.
AFL. Yeah,
That's wild.
Right.
That's a.
Yeah, it's like an NFL cross with soccer, cross with like sprinting or something.
But like people on shoulders.
Yeah, it's like
you
the
had me at
athletics
that.
of that game is pretty intense.
That's a game
And,
I
like,
could
they've
get
got
into.
I mean, I don't know. I learned a little bit of it in like elementary school, like having to you have to bounce the ball like every 10 steps or so, or every 5 meters, like
right.
just all these like.
Just
But it's
counting.
like a football. You've got to like
Yeah.
bounce it and catch it.
Yeah.
I remember having to learn to do that. It's very tricky.
What's a rugby ball, right?
No, it's a rugby ball. Yeah,
It's a rugby ball, right?
Yeah,
Because
a
it's
pigskin. Isn't that what you
surrounded-
call it? A pigskin?
Yes.
Based off all my
Yeah.
American
Well,
movies.
no, I mean, if you look at football, it looks.
Yeah, but
it's-
you've got to sort
the-
of throw it just right to
Right,
bounce
the
it and
rugby
catch it
actually
while
bounces
you're like
right.
sprinting,
Right,
basically.
right.
Keep bouncing the ball and then like kick it like 200
So,
meters
actually,
in the air between like 3
I do have a
poles.
question for Ben.
Yeah.
Of all the American movies you've watched
Oh.
that talk about like American culture,
Yeah.
when you've come here, which one has been the closest to like, wow, they really do that dumb thing?
There's a lot. The
wait,
Simpsons,
there's a
Family
lot of
Guy,
dumb
and
things?
South Park
Oh, yeah.
do
Right.
give
All
you a
three.
very good
good.
external
Yep.
of the reality of when you get here. Yeah.
Of the reality.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I mean, between the
That's-
three.
that's-
Look, okay, there's like 3
that's
trillion
disappointing.
episodes of The Simpsons, so there's going to be some
That says a lot.
accuracies and inaccuracies along the way, but
Well, they predict a lot of things.
they,
They do.
It's amazing.
I mean, you put that much content out, some of it's going to be right.
Didn't they do the whole thing with Trump and
Coming
Melania
down
on
the
the
escalator.
escalator?
Yes.
Oh, they've done.
It's
Yeah.
all of it. Like
Everything.
it's just
Yeah.
like they're so ahead
There's like
of their time.
pandemic-related ones that they've done, like, yeah.
It's kind of amazing.
Yeah.
1989 or 88, that show's been on since
Yeah,
like the late
it's
80s.
been
Crazy.
forever.
Yeah, it's like
That
35
makes me older
seasons.
than you're a kid going
yeah.
to college.
That,
Makes me feel old.
And then if you really want to go to CSI, it's smpp.org, and it's everything and every script and every vowel. It's a Simpsons.
even the stuff from the Tracy Ullman show.
I don't think it's. I think it's from the beginning of.
Talk about
Simpsons.
dating yourself
Yeah,
and
yeah,
being
no,
old.
I know, yeah, absolutely. Well, Ben, it was awesome to have
It was
you.
great.
Here.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
so
It's great
much.
to see you all. Thank you.
We kind of did this impromptu, but thank you.
you.
Guys, we'll see
In case you couldn't tell.
next time.
Off to the Shub.